Good afternoon, everyone. So I have decided to create this presentation for you to be able to easily understand how to derive the demand function equation and the supply function equation. As I have discussed earlier, there are three ways in which you can express the relationship between price and QD or price and QS. So these are in a tabular form. So you have your demand schedule or your supply schedule. You have your also the graphical form, which is your demand curve and your supply curve, and finally the mathematical form, which is either your demand function equation or your supply function equation. So our task for today is to derive these two functions, the linear demand function equation and the linear supply function equation. So if we follow the linear form, so we have the y is equal to mx plus b, which I think you have already discussed in your algebra before. So what you can see in our screen right now is a table that shows price, QD, and QS. If we combine price and QD, you get your demand schedule. If you combine price and QS, you have your supply schedule. So before we go into the details of how we derive your demand and supply function, let's try to identify first or define first these variables involved in the equation. So this is earlier I said it's equal y is equal to mx plus b, but in for the demand or supply equation, so we follow q is equal to a plus bp. They're basically the same. So q there represents either qd or qs. A is the y-intercept, B is your slope, and P is your price. Price is the independent variable. Q or QD or QS will be your dependent variable. So the first thing that we're going to do is to find the slope, which is represented by letter B. The slope is the difference between the new quantity demanded and the old quantity demanded all over the difference between the new price and the old price. So as I have mentioned in our discussion in class, price changes quantity demanded. Price changes quantity supplied. So if there is a new price, the QD will also change. There will be a new QD. So in this case, I have used 900 and 1000 as our new and old quantity, and then 4 and 2. So 4 there is your new price, 2 is your old price. Because the formula there is Q2, which is new quantity, minus Q1. P2, new price, minus P1. The question maybe is, can we use 800 as your new quantity and 700 as your old quantity, and then the new price is 6, the old price is 8? The answer is yes. You can use that because in a linear function, even if you use different combinations or different pairs, we will all arrive at the same answer. As long as if ang price mo nga P1 is 2, then the Q1 must be 1,000. If your P2 is 6, then the Q2 should be 800. That's just like what you are seeing here in the table. So I use 900 and then I deduct 1,000 over, this is my, if this is my new quantity, this should be my new price. 4 minus 2. So negative 100 over 2, you have negative 50. The slope of your demand function is always negative because of the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. The second step, finding your demand function equation, is looking for your y-intercept, which is A. So we go back to Q is equal to A plus BP. So we'll just use positive b and I, and then we reflect the negative sign after we compute for the slope in your demand function, which is negative 50. Okay, so 1000 here. How did we get 1002? I just use this. I replace Q or QD with 1000. I replace P with 2. Can we use 708? Can we use this? Yes. Can you use this? The answer is yes. You can use those combinations. So I just use 1002 para easy lang. So 1000 is equal to A minus 50 times 2. So 1000 is equal to A minus 100. And if we transpose A to the other side, it will become negative A. and your 100 will remain as is, negative 100. But if we transpose 1000 to the right side, it will become negative 1000. So you have negative a now is equal to negative 1100. To get a positive value for a, we have to divide both sides by negative 1, because we know that the coefficient of negative a is negative 1. So you have now a is equal to positive 1100. That is your y-intercept. If you don't want to go through with this kind of computation na medyo lawig-lawig na, we all know that if you transpose negative 100 to the other side, and if you retain a in this side, it will be positive 100, right? So 100 plus 1000, that's already 1100. So that's easy. So that's your second step. The third step is you write your demand function equation. So we follow again this one, but this time around we try to identify how much A is and how much B is. So your A is 1100, your B is negative 50. We do not write anything here sa P, sa Q, and sa P, because these are variables. From the word variable, root word yeah is vary. So if the price changes, your quantity also changes. So it's a function. You can actually use your demand function equation to estimate quantity demanded. For example, what if I change the price to 750? Okay, if you're a marketer and you're asking, okay, pila ayhan ang quantity demanded if the price is 750, then you just substitute P with 7.5 and you can find now your quantity demanded. Okay, so that's the beauty of your demand function equation. Now let's go to the linear supply function equation. We follow the same steps. So here, your Q is not anymore B, but it's not anymore QD, it's now QS. So the first step is identifying or getting the slope. And as I have said, kung tabular form siya gani, oh, this is not the one, this is the one. Let me just erase this part, class, so that we don't get confused, because this is your QD area. So we'll be using QS and your price. So I use 200 and 300. So 300 is my new quantity supplied. 200 is my old quantity supplied. 4 is my new price. And 2 is my old price. So if it's going to be in a case or problem form, it will sound like as the price of product X increased from 2 to 4, the quantity supplied increased also from 200 to 300. So that's the simplest way to write it in a sentence. So you're just extracting where the new what's the new price, or what's the old price, what's the new QS, and what's the old QS. So you apply what you have extracted here sa formula ng slope. So 300 minus 200 over 4 minus 2, you have 100 over 2, and the slope is positive 50. It's positive because the relationship between price and QS is direct. Second step is again finding the y-intercept, and as I have said, you can use any combination of QS and price this time. So I use 200, I replace Q with 200, I replace price with 2, danay sila, 200, yes, 202. Can I use 508? Yes. Can I use 6 and 400? The answer is yes. You will have the same answer na 100 man gyapon in the end. So let me go further. 200 now is equal to A plus 100 because it's the product of 50 and 2. So kung gusto nyo hapos nga kabuhi, so from here, you have A, you transpose 100 to this side, ma-negative na siya, right? So, negative 100 plus 200, it's positive 100. But if you want to go through this, ari siya, so you transpose A to the left side, it's negative 80. And then you retain, yeah, it has to be positive, not negative. Because you retain positive 100, and then you deduct 200 because gin-transpose mo siya. So negative A is now equal to negative 100. And as I have said, this is a coefficient of 1. You divide both sides by negative 1. You have A is now equal to 100. So that's your y-intercept. And then the last is you write your supply function equation. So Q is equal to 100 plus 50P. So this is your supply function equation. Okay, next we combine the two together. We want to know how much is your equilibrium price and quantity. First, we need to recap. So this is your demand function and this is your supply function. We equate your demand function equation because that is the main concept of equilibrium. So 1 minus 50p is equal to 100 plus 50p. So you combine negative 50p and positive 50p. So negative 50p pag transpose mo ni, kapiyak, nag-negative man siya. And then ang 100 retained, pag transpose mo ni to the other side, nag-negative siya. So you now have negative 100p is equal to negative 1000. So to get the value of P, you have to divide both sides by 100. So P now is equal to 10. That's your equilibrium price. So this is the price that has been agreed by the buyers and the sellers. The question is, if this is the equilibrium price, P sub E, then the question is, how much now is the equilibrium quantity? Okay, so this is now the equilibrium quantity. QD is equal to QS ng gyapon, and then we equate the demand function equation and the supply function equation. By this time, we substitute P with 10 on both sides. So 1 minus 500 is equal to 100 plus 500. You get 600, 600. That's your equilibrium quantity. So, ang guaya, the buyers and the sellers agreed to sell and buy at a price of 10 with a quantity of 600. Mabakal sila 600, mabaligya sila 600, price nila 10 pesos. So that's how you derive your demand and your supply function equation, and that's how also you get your equilibrium price and quantity. Thank you so much.